Obviously, one of the most important things when you get ready to go motorcycle camping is where do you camp at? Dispersed wild camping or your standard campground. Most people will start in a campground, kind of migrate out into the wilderness and primitive camping. I am primitive camping today, but we'll start kind of where most people do in the campground and cover the pros and cons and see what is best for you. But let's hop right into it. Let's start with campgrounds, where most people do. We'll cover the pros and cons. Starting with the pros, they're easy to find. A simple Google search, even Google Maps, you can identify them quite quickly. There's no tracing down on the internet or pre-scouting like this particular site here. I was out here last week and was able to scout it. They're normally close to town, close to resources, which can be a big positive. Pick up food, you can pick up supplies, beer, ice, even firewood, anything. Being that they are close to town, you can usually run right into town, grab your supplies, go right back out to your campsite. While primitive camping, like I am doing here, I had to grab groceries and do about 12 miles through the wilderness to get where I wanted to go. So easy access to everything is definitely a positive, including campfire wood. Being close to town, you can grab it, you can actually go to the campsite, drop off and set up, run back to town because it's usually very close, and pick up a couple bundles of wood. Also, a major positive of campgrounds is a lot of times they not only sell wood right at the campground, but they'll deliver it to your campsite. Obviously, on a motorcycle, that is a big plus. Comparative here tonight in my primitive spot, I'm going to have to gather my own wood and then with elbow grease and a lot of calories, process that down, chop it, get kindling, get my own fire starter. So one of the major positives there is fire's ready to go, easy access to everything. Being close to town has the save your butt factor, so that's a major pro. If you've forgotten anything in your kits, sugar, food, I don't know why I say sugar, because I guess you're gonna bake something out there. Ice, cigarettes, a lighter, which I have forgotten. I use a jet boil as I throw my stuff around there. And I have forgotten to bring a lighter to start said jet boil, which is not a good thing. Ice, anything like that. As you're going out to the campground, you can stop into the campground, set up your site, run back into town and grab those odds and ends in your luggage that is now empty. This primitive site I'm at here today, I found the closest grocery store I could to my site. It was it was about 12 miles of bumpy off-roads, but I packed my ice bag, brought my food with me, just a lot easier if you're closer to town. Another huge positive to designated campgrounds is toilets. This is not to be overlooked. A lot of times you're going to have a pit toilet, a vault toilet, and in some cases for the nicer campgrounds or sometimes busier campgrounds, you have actual flushing toilets. Don't overlook that, folks. That's a big deal. In those campgrounds, a lot of times you'll even have a shower. So let's examine this pro of a campsite. A multi-day trips. I've been out here a lot on the Trans-America Trail and the SCAR, did some multi-day trips. It is really nice. It is an extreme luxury, guys, to be able to take a shower in the middle. It just makes you feel more like a human. I don't mind being dirty. I've done long distance backpacking, easier for me to say, before, and you just get beat down and dirty, but it is amazing in the middle of that trip when you get to take a shower. So in some cases, not only toilets, but flushing water and showers are an absolute home run. One of my favorite things, the big time pro tip here, pro of campsites and campgrounds, is the picnic table. I know, it's not because of laziness or anything like that, but I'll tell you, so right now I got a bunch of gear thrown in the foot of the tents, actually gear right off camera that you can't see. It's kind of just a mess. I'll get it cleaned up before nightfall. But have a picnic table just to, when you get to camp, unload your panniers, your luggage, get it all set up, take off my squeaking boots. I love my boots, but I know you've heard them. Sit down, take off your riding gear, put on your camping clothes, kind of just relax. A place to prepare your meal, a place to make your coffee. I carry this little guy with me right here, my little Tom Shoe camp table, which is fantastic. Having a full picnic table, again, is a huge luxury. It's just a gear explosion. Always have something ready to organize your gears off the ground. It's going to be probably overlooked in this list, but it is amazing to have a camp table, a picnic table. That is absolutely a home run. You just wait. When you get a hold of one, you'll see. Now, we've already covered firewood, but I want to touch base on that again because of the caloric expense. Not being able to have to gather your own firewood, split it, create kindling, start the fire, to just sit down, put the firewood into the fire pit at a campsite and light your fire is epic. There's just a huge difference from gathering and collecting and processing your own firewood and the energy expense of that compared to rolling into a campsite, sitting down, having firewood there already delivered, if that's an option, splitting it up, putting some fire starter in there and go. I cannot overstate that enough. It's just kind of, as I call it, the easy button of camping. It makes a dramatic difference. Another big advantage of a designated campsite or camping area is going to be to have people around. This can't be overlooked for many reasons. Definitely a big advantage. It also can be a con. We'll cover that in the con section of campsites, but let's start with the positives first. So if you are just getting into camping, or you're maybe riding solo and you haven't camped alone before, it takes kind of the anxiety out of it. It takes the nerves out of it on many reasons. If you've forgotten, let's try that again. If you have forgotten something, easy access, your neighbors, campers usually kind of help each other out, so you can get it from your neighbor. I always say that if it sounds like a bear, it's probably a squirrel. If it sounds like a German tank, it's a bear. That being said, just you feel a lot more relaxed with other people around if you're hearing wildlife noises. It might just be somebody's dog. There's other people out there. You don't feel so isolated by yourself. You're just much more comfortable. So obviously having people around is a major positive, and we'll touch base on that con. A lot of campsites have electricity right there. When me and Barry rode the SCAR, the South Carolina Adventure Route, up to Lake Jocassee, we did a couple-day trip. Beautiful trip, beautiful views of the lake. It is absolutely stunning up there. I recommend it if you get down to the area. But it was nice just to pull in. We had a heck of a long ride that day. Man, it was just because we were doing dirt all day long, playing around. I can't remember how long, but it was long. But to be able to pull right up to the campsite and set up, having firewood there was amazing. So it can't really be overstated too much. The next pro is going to be very important, setting up your campsite and the ease of doing it. Listen, these campgrounds and campsites are set up for you to come on in and put your tent down. A lot of times there's actual tent pads, perfectly flat spot for you to put your tent, which is amazing. They're also lifted and drain well if you're going to get hard rain. So you can usually put 2, 3 sometimes tents on these tent pads, unless you got this huge car camping tent. And even off of the tent pad at our site at Lake Jocassee, Barry and I both set up on the tent pad and had probably room for one more, but we could have put 6 or 7 more tents in that campsite. Just a huge amount of flat area traditionally with all designated campsites. So you don't have to worry about finding a spot. You just pull up to your spot and you go. It's kind of hitting the easy button. You just roll in, you camp, and you head out. All right, so I made it sound awfully easy, nice, and welcoming to be at a campsite, but let's hit the cons here, guys, and there definitely are some. The first and biggest one in my mind for a con of a campsite, again, I'll reference that Jocassee site because that was a really fun trip on the SCAR, South Carolina Adventure Route. You know, for Barry and I, we're not using the power. It was just primitive. We're just going to set up a camp. Set up our camp, the tents, cook, chill for a little bit, go to bed, and get up in the morning. So we're not using any services. And that was $30 a night. I mean, so if you are in the area booking online and just need a couple nights, I mean, you could push almost $75 to $100 just for a place to sit down and lay your head to relax for the night. So as much as there are many pros to it, a con is just cost. Dispersed and wild camping is free. Firewood is free. Collect it correctly. only process dead, never take down a live tree, you know, process it properly, but the firewood is free. The energy to make it into fire is absolutely not free, but that'll come together. So the main thing there is the cost difference of your trip. To get out to a dispersed camping, the only cost there is going to be your time and gas money. Now, putting the finances aside and the wallet back, yes, I'm a cheapie. I cannot help it. Primitive camping is available for me. It is free. I prefer doing that. Missy and I travel in our Sprinter van as well, a lot of the country, and we're using BLM all of the time. We're not stopping in designated campsites there also. So primitive camping is fantastic. Yes, it's a little more work, but the cost savings is phenomenal, and there's a tip from a cheap ass. So moving on. The next con is something that most people might be thinking about already, and is a big one. It's privacy. Campgrounds these days, if it's built in the last 15, 20 years, you're just on top of the next camper. There's no privacy, there's no tree lines. You're just sitting there saying hello to the person beside you. Half the time, and I hate this, is just being rude. Somebody is either blaring their music, blaring a TV, which is crazy, but somebody's watching TV on a camper or something beside you. There's just no chance to be one with nature, to relax, to take in Mother Nature. It frustrates the living heck out of me. So it is absolutely crazy, but it's a privacy. You don't feel like you're by yourself. It takes you out of the moment, and it's loud. I just want to sit out here, relax. If I brought one, have a craft beer, because you know me, watch the stars, listen to the birds, and chill. Running and idling diesel vehicles, RVs, diesel vehicles, that just to warm them up, to warm the inside up, whatever it may be. The sound of diesel engines running all around you, and the smell. Listen, I drive a diesel van, a Sprinter van. I get it. The smell is just horrible if it's just sitting there and I'm trying to sit at my campsite and that's all that I am smelling is diesel or gas from a generator. So obviously you get it. Noise, privacy, kids running through, music blaring. If you are a camper, please keep your music down. That's all I'm saying. Thank you much. All right, so what other option is there then? Let's talk about the other side of it. Primitive wild camping, just riding in the woods, and when you find your spot or you get tired, pull over and throw your tent out. It is the opposite side of it. It takes a little more use of your comfort level to get out there, but there are a lot of pros of primitive camping and definitely some cons, but we'll walk through that. And the next pro is near and dear to my heart. Yes, I am definitely a cheapie. I cannot help it. What are you gonna do? Primitive camping is free of charge. You just riding, whenever you're tired, you pull over, find a campsite. If you find something that looks good, you just quit early. This campsite right here is just a national forest. No one else is around. It's not exactly the best views, but I'm gonna have a killer sunset right here. And tomorrow through the trees, I'm up on a ridge. I'll be able to see sunrise. Good, easy for me to say, good bird noises. So just the freedom to be out there, the freedom to choose where you're camping. When I was at Linville Gorge is a perfect example just of primitive camping. Up on the mountaintop, huge views of mountains each way, epic stars because I'm in the middle of nowhere, no cities around. Sunsets, sunrise, it just has a lot to offer when you can stop anywhere. But in most cases, you have easy access to free firewood. You just have to process it. Takes a little more elbow grease, got to collect it, got to bring it in, got to chop it up. But again, if you're looking to save money and just get out there camping, primitive camping is definitely a positive to do that for sure. Now let's discover some of the disadvantages to dispersed camping, and there definitely are some. To each their own. I always say, do what you're comfortable with, do what makes you happy. That's why we're out. That's why everyone is out here to have fun. I really need a coffee. It's been a long day. But on the dispersed camping side, there are definitely negatives to that. They traditionally are on long, rough roads. You got to get to the campsite. Unlike designated campgrounds, very easy access. You just pull in because there are RVs, travel trailers going to these. Some of them allow huge RVs. Some of them you have limited size to get in, but they're always pretty easy to get to. Primitive camping like this, a great example here today. I'm out in the Sandhills section, National Forest. So there's a lot of rutty, sandy, muddy roads. Took a little work to get here. It was a lot of fun, but definitely beat me up a little bit. So it can take a lot more to get to the campsite, a lot more work, which takes a lot more planning. On the planning side, you need to use some apps, a little more research to find out where some primitive areas are, where public lands are, so you can start looking for campsites. And they're a little harder to find. So a little more on the practice and a little more on the on just getting ready and planning your routes. So it takes a little bit more work to get out here. I would say it is well worth it, but to each their own. So there's one of the cons. Another one of the cons, which should be taken pretty serious, was definitely a pro of the campsite. So you are out here by yourself. You don't have neighbors. I've mentioned it's been a couple hours. I have not heard anybody. There must be a house around here somewhere, though. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I'm hearing dogs. Hopefully that's somebody's dog. I have not seen a house, I haven't heard a car or anything like that, but you're out here by yourself. So we'll kind of walk through that. What does that mean? If you've forgotten to bring something, you're kind of SOL. You're out on your own. Nobody's here to save you. If I would have forgotten my lighter on this trip, I would not have been able to make my food. I would have just had to eat all of my snacks for the next day. When I got to town to ride through, I would have had to get a lighter. So nobody's here to save you. If I'm processing firewood out here, if I'm gathering firewood and I trip, roll an ankle, break an ankle, cut myself, nobody's here to save me. I carry a first aid kit. But other than that, there's nobody else out here. I do carry a Garmin, a GPS, so I know where I am. I can talk to people. I do text because I have a big backpacking history as well. I've mentioned a lot on this channel, but I'm out in the woods by myself a lot. So there are ways to get around that, but still very limited help. Nobody's coming to help you out here. If my bike breaks down, if anything happens, you're on your own. So you need a little bit higher comfort level to get out here and do your own thing. That's definitely a con. Make sure that you are prepared before you come out primitive camping. There's no doubt about that. If you haven't been out to the area before, if you have not had a chance to scout the area, know other riders that have been through the area, take a look at some maps or some GPS. Sometimes primitive sites can be hard to find. Now that might sound weird for you, but it's all about the area that you're in. Riding on a Trans-America Trail with Barry. We were going all the way through, I'm going to try to think, somewhere in Tennessee into Virginia. And the mountain was beautiful. The trail was beautiful. Forest roads into double track roads, back to forest roads. But it was cliffs on the sides. It was ravines. Very few camping sites there to be found. So you have to make sure you're prepared. Make sure you've done some scouting. Make sure you've talked to somebody. And your day could go long. You might not be able to stop until you get to a designated site. So that can be a negative as well. Kind of pushes back to that planning side, but make sure you're prepared if you're going to primitive camp. And one of the biggest probably disadvantages of primitive or wild camping is going to be self-sufficiency. Not only what I was talking about, you're out on your own, if you cut yourself, anything like that, but if your bike breaks down, it's all about yourself. There's just nobody else out there. So you need to process your own water. Carry a backcountry water filter. Campsite's going to have water for you in most cases. When you're primitive camping, you've got to identify, is there water sources there? Have a backcountry water filter with you and storage for that. If not, your final time through a town, through a gas station, anything like that, you're gonna need to fill up. I like to bring, I drink a lot of coffee, I drink a lot of water, and normally if I'm just on the go, it's dehydrated meals, backpacking meals for me. If you've seen plenty of my videos, when Barry comes along from Fire and Ice Outdoor Gear, he is an amazing camp chef. So I get a little spoiled. He's making steaks and wings, steak and eggs. He's making a little bit of everything. Thank you, Barry. When I'm on my own, that is not really the thing. It's a lot of water going into what I'm making. So I like to carry 4 liters, carry a gallon with me. You got to make sure you're self-sufficient and you have plenty of gas. You have plenty of water, gas for cooking, and gas for your cycle. So just really more self-sufficient. You're able to get yourself out of any trouble that you need. So self-sufficiency and confidence is definitely going to be a big thing there. Kind of playing off that, the next disadvantage is a positive for some and a negative for others. So the con of being all by yourself. If you have any anxiety about camping, if you're solo camping like I am tonight, if you haven't been out in the woods by yourself, or you hate noises, I tell you how many times I've been in my tent or at night with the fire around and hear a huge noise in the woods. I've been out here enough, I know it's usually 2 or 3 squirrels playing around, but it sounds like a bear, it sounds like a boar. Even in one of our trips up to Linville Gorge, and it was in November, so not too long ago, late in the year, we saw a mama bear with 2 cubs in North Carolina mountains in the off season, in the shoulder season. So definitely being by yourself, anxiety, hearing noises, you're gonna have to be a little more confident. First time you're primitive camping, I'd highly recommend going out with somebody else. Just being by yourself can feel a little isolating. So that is definitely a con of primitive camping, the isolation. The other side of that, as I mentioned, is no one else is out there with RVs. Depending how hard the road was to get up there, maybe you're all by yourself, as nobody else is coming. It takes a lot more confidence in your riding and to get out there. It's harder to get here. It definitely pays off. The views that we've had on the Transamerica Trail, Linville Gorge, and the Appalachian Mountain trip that we did, the views pay off, but you are absolutely out by yourself. And if anything happens, you just got to fight through it yourself. So that's definitely a big change there as well. Probably my final con of dispersed camping, I would say, is just the energy that goes into dispersed camping. I do think that most people start in a campground because of its easier access, easier to set up, comfort level, those type of things. You get to dispersed camping, there are a lot of benefits and a lot of pros to it, but the negatives there is trying not to build fire rings or anything unless I have to. But again, when I have to, I'm moving rocks to get a fire ring. I am spending sometimes 30 or 40 minutes, and that sun is going down, so getting a little cold out here, 30 or 40 minutes gathering firewood. Same amount of time chopping and processing that firewood. Tent, just setting up a tent. Like this wasn't so bad. I'd come into the woods just a little bit. The first 2 spots I found for tonight, there's just no level ground whatsoever. And that's gonna happen in dispersed camping because it's not made particularly to tent. This is just wilderness. Mother Nature doing its thing out here, looking gorgeous, making me happy. But a lot of times, even as a solo camper, I'm having trouble finding a flat spot. So finding a spot for your tents, if you're with a group, finding something big enough where you can put multiple tents down in a flat spot, which is a huge deal. Just the amount of effort that does go in. You want to come to camp a little earlier, going to put out a little more energy, and that's going to be one of the cons of primitive camping. Is for the same enjoyment, the actual camp, it goes, a lot more goes into it. But there you have it. There are kind of my pros and cons of each. Traditionally, if you're new at this, I think you're going to start in a campsite, and I highly recommend that. Get the feel of your gear, get out there. I got some camping videos I'll link so you can see a lot of my camping. Most of it is primitive. Some of it is in campsites just because of need or area. But get out there. The main thing, guys, is whether it's in designated campsites, campgrounds, or primitive wild camping, get out here. It is amazing. Just say yes to adventure. I know if you have a bike or a backpack, whatever it is, and you haven't had a chance to camp on it yet, just find yourself a campsite, something you know you can get food easily, you can get campfire easily, you get water easily, and it's just you, your shelter, sleep system, and that's about all you need to do, that and water, which they'll provide. So the big thing, whether you like the pros or the cons of either and what fits into your needs, is get out there camping. Go to a campsite if that's what you need to do first. Get your comfort level and graduate up. But come on out camping. I'll show you some different hiking spots, some different riding spots that I have done in the videos. If you're looking for build outs, what I bring camping, I'm definitely not somebody that overpacks. I'm not a minimalist. I'm somewhere comfortably in the middle because I have a big backpacking history. So I'll pop up right here my gear video, what I bring on the cycle with me, and I'll link below as well and show you right here is what I say is the essentials, what you need to bring camping, what you need to have, the absolute essentials of motorcycle camping. So just get out there, guys, have some fun. I appreciate you coming along, watching the video. If you have a minute, I would love it if you could like and comments. I'm sure I've left plenty of cons and pros out for both. What do you like the best about primitive camping? What do you like the best about campsites? And what do you hate the most about both? Let me hear. And we can start that discussion below. Don't forget to like this particular video. Don't forget to subscribe. Come on, let's have some fun and let's go on an adventure. So I'm going to see you next time, and keep adventuring and get out there and have some fun, guys. Have a great night. I'm going to get my own fire set up before I freeze out here.